All right, I think we're live. Perfect. I think it's working just fine. Tulin, if you're gonna start complaining right from the get-go, this is not gonna be a fun day. What am I wearing? So, do you mean like in general? I have this is my my base layers that I have going on here. I'm gonna take off the headphones. I don't need them right now. Um, so I have my Ido Gear pants. Um, so they are like I guess the Cry Repro or whatever. I actually really like these a lot. They have really good stitching. I don't know if you can really see them there, but this is really strong stitching here and on the back side as well, which I mean, is fair showing you guys. The knee pads are really great. I've been having a really good time with them. And what I like about them is I've mentioned before, like I'm shorter in stature. And so if I get regular trousers or pants, typically the knee pad is either too high or too low. So they have the adjustment on the back so you can both cinch it in where you want it, but there's also, you can see this cord here, you can pull on this and you can adjust the knee pad upwards. So that has been really helpful for me overall. Yeah, and they have tons of pockets and all this kind of stuff. And I got them in OD just because they go with all the different camos that I'm potentially going to wear, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. I wear my waist higher than usual. That's just how I wear my pants, Tulin. So there you go. So yeah, so I've got my stuff here. So I'm just gonna start getting ready for the game. So typically, what I usually will end up doing is I like to load all of my mags before I get to the field because I find like once I get there, I just want to get playing, and I really hate it when people are, show up at the start time and then they start loading mags, and I'm like, guys, like, are you did you come to play or what's the deal? Especially for us, where I think I mentioned this in the podcast before, but we've got like 3 hours. Like we play from 10 a.m. to about 1 p.m. So I want to get as much play time as I can during that time. And yeah, so it's I think it's incumbent on people who show up to show up ready to play. I mean, if you're a renter or you're just playing, for your first couple of games, like whatever. But I've been playing long enough to know how this goes, so that's how how I choose to show up. Now, if that's not what you want to do, well then that's fine. I mean, I'm not judging anybody, but I know for myself, I hate waiting around. So I've got my full assortment of mags here, I think. Am I missing one? I might be missing one. It's whatever, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to load mags and we can chill. I am a pleb, I guess, in that I still use a classic loader. I haven't graduated to an Odin or anything like that. Everyone talks about them, and I'm putting BBs all over my floor. But I haven't really graduated to a speed loader. So what pew am I running today? Well, this is a good question. So I think just in terms of practicality, number one, I am going to run my HPA just because I recently just put it back together to try and get the nozzle alignment correct, as well as changing to a different hop-up style to see if that works better. So I'm gonna start using. I will definitely use the HPA just from that point of view. However, I do have access to other rifles. I know for sure I will have access to John's AK if that's something that is interesting. So hopefully this noise is not too loud for you guys. If it is, I can knock it off, but just let me know. But yeah, so if you guys want me to use an AK, I'm happy to do that. But what I really want to get you guys' feedback on, which we can talk about a little bit, is what what camouflage you'd like me to wear. So we have access to a fair amount of camo. So Alpenflage is certainly in the list. We also have access to DNC is absolutely one that I have, but I was also talking to John, and he and I are roughly like a similar sort of build. He might be like a little bit taller, but ultimately we can both wear our stuff. Desert Night Camo, Tulin. Desert Night Camo. That's the olive drab with the black grids on it. I'll show it to you in a second. So in terms of the camo, we have access to, you know, your the typical like M81. We've got Alpenflage. We have multicam, obviously DNC, so Desert Night Camo, as well as Vegetato is one that I have, like the Italian Vegetato. And then in addition to that, we have P37 Windproof, which is a World War II pattern. We have Blumentarn, which in my understanding is it's an East German like Cold War pattern. We've got Splinter A, which is like the original OG M90. We've got Swedish M90s, of course, as well. And then a variety of field jackets, Denisons, and DPM as well, like the British DPM. So those are the kinds of camo options that we have. And then we've got that. We've got gear that you guys can pick. So I don't mind like wearing a completely random outfit if that's what you guys are looking to do. We'll do pictures. I'll play a couple games and see how it works for me. In terms of headgear, I can wear, you know, anything from a you know, a baseball cap to a boonie hat, etc. But just be mindful that whenever I'm not wearing my helmet, I'm not going to have a GoPro on my head, obviously, because the GoPro is mounted straight to the helmet. So just think about that. So what, I guess my question for you guys is, you know, like, what are the different camos that you would like to see me wear? So I see Alpenflage and DNC. But is there something in particular that you, or a combination that you'd like to see me wear? In terms of gear as well, like I've got access to chest rigs, Chi-Coms, roadie chest rigs, you know, 58 pattern webbing, that kind of stuff too. So it's just a matter of letting me know what you'd like me to wear. While I do that, I'll Oh yes, I do. Bench. That's a really good point. Thank you. I'll go through the box in a second. There, I have all the assortments in there. I'll go through that box. But yeah, you're right. I have Fleck, of course. I've worn that for at least one video, and I really do like it. I think it's a fantastic camo. Fleck turn. I'll grab it from the box 1 second. This is Fleck turn. Repping for my boy Ambo. I think this is pretty based. Like I would wear this just regularly, right? But yeah, I think it looks great, and it does work well here. Like if you look, like it's got a lot of the like dark brown. I'm not sure if this is showing up as black, but like darker greens, some lighter colors. Like this works pretty well in our environment. These browns here, not so much, but like this area, I think does work really, really well for most of our games. Yeah, I mean it's not quite digital, but yeah, it's you know, the smaller splotches compared to something like M81, which has the larger splotches of color and stuff. And in case any of you care, which you know you may or you may not, and that's really cool. I am using here the BLS ammunition. This I can't remember which retailer in Canada gets the BLS, but I find that after, like, we used to use Mad Bull Precision for a long time, and during COVID or after, during COVID obviously, but like after COVID, they stopped manufacturing. Like it was not possible to get it anymore, and so we switched to, you know, other things that we can find. BLS. I mean, the thing that happens with a lot of these BB manufacturers is they're all made in the same place. It's just the companies will pay more or less for better quality control or less quality control or what have you. The formulas are, more or less the same. So we went with the BLS ones. Like they're, relatively affordable, but they're better than your sort of baseline BBs. Yeah, so in terms of the mags that I'm using, Ben is right. So Frosty. I am using PTS EPM mags. I have 2 generations of them. I have like the original gen, and then the newer version. And the way I tell them apart, is that the original versions, if you look, it has this, like, the top here is completely flat up here, and the newer version, for some reason, they have you can see it has like a groove here in between. And so these are the newer ones, and for my money, the newer ones work a little bit better than the older ones. And I don't really know how to explain the difference, because one of the things that I've done is I've replaced the follower in some of these. I don't know if I have, and yeah, so you can see it here. I've replaced the spring and the follower in the old ones with a new PTS, like the newer version of their mag and follower, and so I'm not sure why. But you can see this one. I don't know if it'll show on camera, but I'll do my best here. You can see there the follower is round, perhaps, and if you look on the enhanced followers or the new ones, it's kind of flat, or it's got a groove to hold the BB. So anyway, I've been using those with the new followers, and they work, better, but they're still not as good, in my opinion, as the newer of the PTS ones. So I would highly recommend the PTS just in general, the EPMs, primarily because I haven't found an Airsoft M4 that they don't really work in, that they don't feed well in. So that's why I use them. Now, I recognize as well they're way more expensive, right? So I used to use something like this previously, which I still use. This is a metal King Arms Stanag mag. These are bomb-proof, I find. I used to have plastic versions of these that were like, $5 Canadian. So obviously the performance measures that you expect from something that costs $5 is way different than something that costs, $30. But you're getting your money's worth, and I've had to buy mags a lot less frequently since switching to something like this compared to what I was using before, right? So anyway, keep loading some mags here. One interesting factor, or interesting thing that I've also noticed in switching to HPA, some of you may be familiar with the problem, like sometimes called mid-cap syndrome, where when you overload your mid-caps, yeah, you're right, Cullen. I'm sorry, this is all about you, so you go ahead, you give your history lesson, and I'll just sit here quietly while I keep doing what I'm doing. So as I was saying, yeah, I actually lost my train of thought. There you go. Oh yes, the mid cap. So the mid cap syndrome. So what would tend to happen is if you overloaded your mid cap, so if you fill them completely full, sometimes that would cause like feeding issues in your AEG and stuff. So when I ran mid caps in my AEG, I tended to not load them fully. Like I would do maybe, full, half, or 3/4 full, or something like that. I'd eyeball it. I never count. But since switching to HPA, I found that actually that doesn't happen at all. So I always fully load these mags as much as I can, or as often as I can, and that tends to work really, really well. So it's really, it's interesting how stuff has changed, or you play Airsoft, on AEG for, like I did, for like 15 years or whatever, and you switch to HPA, and it's totally different, right? It's new lessons. And I think I mentioned this maybe on the podcast last week. I don't know, but one of the reasons that I haven't been like really frustrated with problems with the HPA that I've had this year so far is that it's always been a learning experience. Like I think when I was on AEG and it wasn't really working, like I didn't really know why it wasn't working, and that was frustrating. It's like, why isn't this working? Like, she should be working. Whereas with HPA, every single time, it's like, oh, it's not working. Oh, and this is why. Oh, it has to do with the metering that screw, or it has to do with this, or it has to do with nozzle alignment. So every time something doesn't work, I have like a course of action that I need to sort of start steering down. Whereas with AEG, it wasn't really like that. And it was really just frustrating and like, oh, this is stupid. Where I don't really feel that way with HPA, so it's been a nice change of pace, to put it that way. All right. So of course yeah, and I think Bench, you're totally right. Like AEG does have a lot more parts, and I will say, like, it's not that I don't know how to open a gearbox. Like I've done it, with Pat dozens, maybe hundreds of times at this point. But every time I still open it, I'm like, oh, are these screws going? Is this like spring going to explode in my face, or did I hold it down right, or whatever? Where I found with the Kythera, I don't have any problem opening it. The only thing I have to watch out for is the trigger, right? The trigger will like pop out, and then aside from that, it's good. So it's been, it's a lot easier for me, a lot like just from a mental mindset to just it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna open the gearbox today, no big deal. So still have a couple frustrating things with it, but nothing too major. I'm gonna have some coffee, just yeah. So yeah, so this is what I'm going through. What I'm going through right now in terms of like loading my mags and stuff. I mean, yeah, an Odin would make this a lot easier. But this has been sort of my pre-Airsoft ritual since I've been playing Airsoft, right? Sometimes I would do it the night before, but basically I'd just sit down in front of the computer with, TV, like movies, or, chat, or like watching a stream or something like that, and just slowly load up all of my mags. I will, like look at my grenades and I would oil them, make sure all my kit is ready and squared away. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm here like cleaning my kit and doing all kinds of stuff every single time, or washing all of my my replica parts down, or anything like that. Like, that's not something that happens every single time. Although if obviously if my stuff is dirty, like it'll go in the wash. But like I'm not washing my test rig. Some people talk about like, how do you wash your plate carrier? Like, like I'm not, even when I wore a plate carrier, like I wasn't really taking too much time to wash that stuff either. It was just really just making sure that when I get to the airsoft field, like all I really need to do is throw on my kit and then just start playing, essentially. So yeah, I really hate it when people, like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if, this is the thing where you live, but here in Canada, in North America, I think there's something we call Airsoft Standard Time, which I don't know if this is a concept or something that you guys experience in different countries, but Airsoft Standard Time means half an hour after whatever the designated time is. So if the game starts at 10, what that means, Airsoft Standard Time, is the game will start at 10:30. And it's just because people are slow and they don't show up on time. And it's funny because like even when you host an event like we did, we're like, oh hey, the game starts at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. sharp, and people are still not prepared to start, even though they're given the time to the specific time to show up and how important it is and blah blah blah. So yeah. I'm gonna keep doing this. So let's come back to what camo you guys want me to wear and get pictures in and play a couple games in. So as soon as I finish loading this mag, I'll bring up the box of camo. Yeah, Talon, that's true, and like I don't know what rules you need half an hour to go through. You know what I mean? Like if you have brand new players or whatever who need to be told everything about the game, like, yeah, that can take a while. But what is it that you need half an hour to go through all of the rules for? Like, it seems like a lot of time, and you know, if time is at a premium, then you probably should be trying to get them done faster. And when I say you, I don't mean you, Tullen. I mean like your refs or whatever should be like looking at um, how long is it really going to take. The other thing that I found, and I don't know if this is something that you guys experience as well, but like half of the stuff that gets brought up in the briefings, like people make a big deal of certain things, and like they never come up. You know what I mean? Like it's like why are we like they'll spend 2 seconds saying, hey, don't blind fire, which is super important in my opinion. Don't blind fire, don't poke your gun around a corner without knowing what's back there or whatever. They'll spend 2 seconds on that, but then they'll spend 10 minutes talking about how to properly do a melee kill. And it's like, that's like never gonna come up. Or if it does, like it'll be so infrequent. Like we're not spending the time on the right stuff, but anyway, that's besides the point. Okay. So I'm going to bring this over. Now, I don't have all the camo here with me, so the Blumenturn, the Splinter, all the World War II stuff, that's with John. So I have the Alpenflage, which I showed earlier, so if this is interesting to you. I have, sorry, not the Alpenflage, the Flecktarn. Then I have the Alpenflage, so this one here, the Pizza Turn, right? I don't know if you guys like this one. This is a meme. I don't think it's really good. But I mean, I don't mind that I have it. This is the Desert Night camo. So Tullen, this is what we were talking about before. This one right here is interesting because John actually made this. This was custom made by John for me. So it's like an anorak, I guess is the style that you would call it. So it has a big pouch on the front that fits neatly underneath the chest rig, so I have access to it. Yeah, and it doesn't have Velcro sleeves. It's just an elastic sleeve. So he made this like custom to like whatever we wanted. So I said like, oh, I want a quarter zip. So he made a quarter zip. This is camo, I think, from... I mean, someone who knows more about history can tell me, but I think this is like 90s. I think this is like Gulf War era camo, if I'm not mistaken. But the pattern itself, the anorak pattern, I think is an old school pattern that he used. I have the same camo, more or less, so DNC. This is a combat shirt. So if this is something that, like you would prefer. This one is interesting. I actually got this from Jordan because someone on his field was selling a DNC combat shirt and I'd never seen one before. So I got him to buy it for me and send it up because it was cheaper than trying to get one custom made or try and get one ordered into Canada. The weather today is going to be fair. It's going to be 15 degrees C and there's not going to be any rain. It's going to be overcast, which is great. And yeah, so it's not gonna. I'm not too worried about being too warm. That's for sure. And then if you're in terms of the other camos, we've got Vegetado here, and my trusty old multicam combat shirt. This is like one, probably if not the first combat shirt I ever wore for Airsoft. Previous to this, I always only wore like BDU tops. But yeah, switched to, this is a true spec one, and I've had this since, well, later on today I'm going to show you some old photos of us, of the team and stuff like that, but probably 2013, maybe even 2012, when I got this particular one on the multicam. You can certainly boo on the multicam if you want. I don't mind. I personally, for our environment here, multicam is rubbish. Like, it's not effective at all. And I don't think it looks very good, but that's a hot take. That's really not relevant to the conversation. And I mean, I've got my boonie hat here if you guys want me to wear that instead of the helmet. I've got a baseball cap too that I can throw on if you guys want. So let me just go through the chat here. So Alpenflage M83, it can be good. Yeah, like I don't really want to say whether or not it is good. I can only tell you that it's not good here. because we don't get those kinds of red colors that you see in there. Even in the fall, like we have a lot of coniferous trees, right? So anyways, do you have any jigsaw? I don't know what jigsaw is. Like, is it Danish camo? Is that what it is? Weird purpley camo. Okay. I don't typically like doing this, but I'll do it anyway. I'll bring it up. Jigsaw camo. Oh yeah, okay. It's Belgian. Oh yeah, of course it would be Belgian. Right. Yeah, tell him that makes sense. Sorry about that, bud. Yeah, jigsaw. Wow. I've actually okay, so that's wow, that's unique. I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry for it now. It's really like yellow and purple. That's kind of strange, hey? Anyways, I mean, I'm not yucking anybody's yum, but yeah, Peppa Pig jigsaw puzzle, yeah. It's definitely like it's giving Cold War. I don't know if that's accurate. But yeah, it's certainly giving up. Okay, so you guys, so let me just go back through the chat here. So it's you guys are cool with Fleck turn. Okay, yeah, I can certainly do that. I used to have a Fleck turn helmet cover too, but since I use the scrim now, it's not really that essential. Okay, so we got the Fleck turn, so I'll set that aside. I thought maybe I'd give you a close-up of the helmet that I'm rocking, because it's kind of hard to see sometimes in pictures. So basically, literally all I did was take my old helmet with the helmet cover and everything in place, and I literally just took camouflage netting, the one that I used to decorate the studio with, and literally just tossed it right onto over the helmet, and then inside I just have it attached at various points underneath some of the pads, through some of the screws, Velcro it onto the back. You can see some of the Velcro there, and that just holds it all in place. Like, I mean, it's not falling off even if my head, well, maybe on the back side here, but that's it. And then what I also did is I have a NVG battery pack. Don't have NVGs, but I store and I don't know if you can really see it here, but there is like a plastic battery bank. It's about this big, and I have a cable that runs there all the way to the front for my GoPro, so that I have a lot more battery life. Does it get snagged in the bushes? I haven't experienced that. I have done, even like last game, I was like in the woods, like proper. I was crawling around, like I didn't really find it got snagged on anything. It's not too droopy. Like this little bit here you got dangling. That's about it. Everything else, it's clear of my face. Like you can see on the front, like you can see the lid, the edge, I should say. I don't really have an issue there. I'm also using the Howard Lights. I used to have the Earmore active hearing, whatever they're called, like the M32s or whatever. And to be honest, they were not great. I would not buy them again. They were expensive for what they were. And after like not even a year, like 8 months basically, I'd used them probably a dozen times, maybe. They just randomly stopped working. And I don't know why. These ones were a fraction of the cost, and they've been totally just fine. And I just used them on the same rail adapters that I had from the Earmore. They're not like great, but again, they get the job done just fine. And then of course my GoPro on the front. I had to drill it out so I could get the cable through it, but this is an old dive housing that I used for when I used to go diving, and that just works just fine. So that's my helmet setup. And then the other thing, and I'll wear this today, but I will also wear Tullen, if you're interested, I'll wear the chai cum as well, or whatever John brings me. It'd be interesting to see some of his like old school webbing that he has. Like I'd be down to wear some of that too. He has, I know he has 58 pattern webbing and 37 pattern webbing, maybe something like that. And then he's got the old school like U.S. Armed Forces like webbing, and that's some of the stuff that I wore when I wore his 101st Airborne Parachutist impression, right? And he's got like some Rhodesian stuff too, but I mean, we won't go into too much details about that. And so someone asked earlier about my comm setup. So what I have, this is my typical setup. So this is my microfight chest rig with my helicopter dangler in M90, because I mean, like, this was made by one of our Discord community members, by the way. This was made by Mick Gear. I can't remember what his new username is, but shout out to him. He makes awesome custom stuff, and so he custom made me this, and so I have that, and then on the front I have my PTT, which connects, which is a speaker mic, but I connect it into my headset, right? So it just connects using like one of those small like 3mm cables or whatever, connects right into the headset. You can see the port right there. And then what I've done is I've run the cable through the back and then Velcroed over it, so that the cable actually is, even though it's, you know, like it's corded, it's all channeled this way, so it's not getting tangled in anything. And I have my radio on the other side. And the reason why I've done this is because and I think Chaz was probably talking about it in Guns and Gear maybe yesterday or the day before. But these radios that we use, they can output a lot of power, and they're very dirty. And so what happens is that they can interfere very easily with other comms equipment nearby, etc. So it's better when you're using this particular type of setup to try and keep them separate from different sources. So that's what I've done. So I have the radio on one side and I've got my PTT on the other to make sure to minimize sort of any interference. When you buy good quality communications equipment, that becomes less and less of a problem. But these sort of cheaper models, they're a bit more problematic when it comes to that. So that's why I have that set up that way. And I've got, the way the placard is done is just, it's 6 primary mags on the front. So what I typically will do as I load my mags here, and it's funny, I've done this, conservatively hundreds of times. I always forget the orientation of my mags. So I end up putting the chest rig and going like, okay, which way do these go in again? Like, do they go in like this? And like, if I take it out like this, is that the right way? Yes. Okay. I do that every single time. So maybe I'm just a numpty and that's just me. But yeah, so as I get myself ready, I'm like, okay, so I'm doing my reloads. Yep, that's the right orientation. Perfect. So that's what I do. I load my mags into my chest rig, so that, again, once I get to the field, the only thing I got to do is haul out the chest rig, put it on my body, put it on my person, and get going. So those are these. The only thing I didn't load, I just want to showcase, because this is something that, I mean, it's getting rarer and rarer, and I don't know if this is, I mean, some of you may have seen them or not, but this is the Tornado Impact Grenade. So this is the last generation, I mean, I guess only generation of these impact grenades that were made. And yeah, so this one in particular, this is legitimately the second one that I ever bought. But it's a bit like the Ship of Theseus, in that the parts are all, aside from the outer shell, the parts are all different. So the end cap here, I've had to replace because it gets damaged. The shuttle inside I've had to replace because it got damaged. The valves, the O-rings, just to try and keep it in line. And I have a lot of different spare parts. I have a lot of older grenades, and I think like this is probably it. Like once this one goes, I don't think I'm gonna have access to this type of grenade anymore, because they're not manufactured. So yeah. Talking about my suspenders, and Matt, it's nice to see you, buddy. These are clip-on suspenders, so they loop around the belt, and that's it. Just like that. I like these a lot. I've had these for a very, very long time, and if you're gonna, like me, you're gonna wear anything on your belt and whatnot, super, super helpful. So I have one spare mag here, and I've got 2 mags I haven't loaded, so I'm gonna load those right there. And yeah, so I have replaced most of that grenade. I was able to find a guy on the Airsoft Canada marketplace subreddit a couple of years ago, and he was selling like a lot of those grenades. Like he had 3 of them. They're like, oh, they don't work. Selling like $40 each or something. And so I bought them because I figured that I knew enough about the grenades to either be able to revive maybe 1, maybe 2 out of them. And then if not, then I'd have parts for the others. And I was able to revive 1 out of the 3 using parts from the other 2, which, I mean, for, I think I ended up paying him like $100. Like that was still a really good deal because that's kept me in grenades since then. Yeah. And I do, like this is a piece of equipment that both Pat and I have used for. I mean, I honestly can't tell you how long I've had them. It's been a very, very long time. You don't really need to replace them. Like they're not going to break or anything like that. The only thing that I've done over the years is adjust them as I've gained or lost weight, usually lost. And then, I tape the straps down just to make sure they're not flapping around and driving me crazy. And, that's been totally fine. So yeah. All right. I'm just going to load this last mag. I'm going to load my belt. And yeah, I'm super, super happy to be able to do this community day with you guys. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to get the chance to hang out, engage, show you some stuff that you haven't seen before. Like one of my plans for later on today, I've got some pictures set aside. I've got some videos set aside of some actual gameplay. And what we'll do, we'll start, going through it, looking at it together. We'll react to it at the same time. It's stuff that, it's unedited, it's unscripted. It's just going to be sort of you and me hanging out. Like that's the whole intent of today. We've got some gaming planned for a little bit later, depending on who's around. And yeah, so I'm super, super excited about it. Yes, Matt. So you've, I know it's super early for you, buddy, and I can't appreciate you being here enough. Like it's awesome. I am using a pistol loader, and right now I'm loading up my last 2 mags, which is just my Stanag King Arms M4 mags. All the other ones are the PTS EPMs. This is a Gen 2, and I've got a bunch of the Gen 1s as well. But as I was saying to the guys earlier, like this has been my Airsoft sort of ritual for years and years and years. Like sit down at the computer, watch stuff, watch a stream, YouTube, whatever, and then load my mags, watch an action movie or whatever, and just get ready for the next day. Especially when I was running like multiple grenades, like I would lube and maintain them. I'm not going to do that with this one because I just finished fixing it and putting it back together the other day, so it's good to go. But yeah. So this mag here is done. All right, so I will put this away. Oh no, I need to load my grenade. So yeah, the other thing that I don't really talk a lot about, but this is the belt that I use. So this is a 511 Sierra duty belt, and I really like it because it's got the Velcro inside that mates with the Velcro liner, so I can literally just put it like this, clip it in place, and then I'm done. And if I need to take this off, I can take this off without taking the rest of it off. So I always have my 2 Stanag mags here, right? I have a grenade clip, and the grenade goes right there. And then I have a magnet dump pouch by HSGI. I like this one a lot because it weighs nothing. It doesn't hold any water or anything like that. And if I don't really need it, I can just roll it up and tuck it away. You can see like it just, like it just rolls up underneath itself, and then the flap just closes on the top, on the inside there. Super convenient. And then I've got my holster for my sidearm, which, you know, is just what it is. The grenade clips are super slick. They obviously they don't need to be made anymore because they're Kydex, but they're made specifically for tornado grenades to fit into. So there's two different ones, but same idea. I wanted something that I could have the grenade like ready at any given time, or multiple grenades at any given time. And this was the best solution. Ostensibly, you could use it for other stuff that's the same size, but they're designed specifically for the tornado and the tornado impacts. Rest in peace, Airsoft Innovations, because these were definitely excellent. And Pat's picked up a different. I can't remember the name of the manufacturer or whatever it is. It's just not as good, man. Like this was something special, and the other stuff that we've seen that's similar is either too chunky, too bulky. I talked about this I think in the past, and when we spoke to Carl from Airsoft Innovations, years ago. But they designed the Tornado with the airsoft community in Canada. Like Carl would go to the field and ask people like, "Hey, what do you want as a feature for the grenade?" Right? And so that's how this particular form factor came into being, because people said, and I think it's valid, like we want a grenade that fits inside an M4 mag pocket, so like a double M4, double stack or whatever, and this does that. We want something that's reusable. We want something that's propane powered, etc. And like that, I think is a really good example of user-based design, like thinking about, okay, well, what do people want out of this, and how are we going to design something that ticks all those boxes. And yeah, so, and I agree, Matt, like it does make me sad in retrospect. Like, I'm not sad that I talked to Carl, don't get me wrong, like, that's not what I'm suggesting, but looking back on it, it's like he was a really cool dude. He had, I'm sure he still is a cool dude. He had really good ideas, and his execution of those ideas, especially initially, was really, really good. I think one of the things that he talked about in the episode is ultimately where, people who have these type of passion projects sort of sometimes go wrong or get caught, is that, I think he was a victim of the success and a victim of product overreach, right? If you remember, one of the things he talked about is the Cyclone, the second version of the impact grenades that they made, that did not do so well because they tried to do too much. And so when he went back to the drawing board with the Tornado 2, he ended up with a really good product. And then the Flack stuff happened, right? And again, like, that's something that he wanted to do that was smart, but ultimately, like, is that really what the airsoft community needed? Like, did they need an M4 mag fed propane powered shotgun? Like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of airsofters want really unique stuff, and it is unique for a reason, and it's that it's not necessarily going to do well in the mainstream. Like, I'm sure many people would love to see an airsoft SKS rifle, for example. Are people going to make that and make money off it? Like, probably not, right? So yeah. Anyway, he was a cool dude, and it's really too bad that that Airsoft Innovations had the fate that it had, because I would love to be able to keep using these grenades forever, unfortunately. Or I'd love to see like a second version, an updated version of the Tornado. Like, if they could do a Tornado Impact 2 with updated, manufacturing, updated materials and stuff, I think that would be really great. Because I mean, these aren't perfect. Like the firing pin is a bit of a pain. I have the graphic of the firing pin order written in marker pen on the grenade to remind myself how to set the pin, because if you I don't know if any of you guys have seen one of these before, but when you look at the firing the actual trigger mechanism, what it is, I don't know if you guys, yeah, you can see it. It's a stack of different shaped pins. So there's a fat one, a long one, a flat one, and a big one. and they go in a particular order. And then when you take the actual firing pin out, or not the firing pin, but the actual grenade pin out, those are held together from the pressure from the grenade, but one swift knock knocks them out of place and then the grenade goes off. Well, it's a really neat design, but the way you set that firing pin is a real pain. And so that's one of the things that they fixed in future iterations, and including on the Cyclone. You don't need to do that anymore. It would be cool to have seen like a Tornado 2 Impact that had an updated firing pin, so you didn't have to do that every time, but yeah. All right, what do we got here? Almost loaded. Yeah, this particular grenade has seen a lot of deployments. It's the plastic shell is really beat up, like you can see all over. It's got like nicks and cuts and scratches and stuff just from me tossing it. Yeah. Well, I think Tolan, that's a really good point. Like the bottom line is like all this kind of stuff sounds really cool, but does the average airsofter have the budget to go and buy all the things that they fancy, right? Let alone all the cool, unique niche stuff, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it's like, and I think Matt, you're just summing it up perfectly. Like, almost, it was cool, but no useful purpose. And I think that ultimately, like, having no useful purpose for like a piece of kit that's like $20 or $30 or $40 or $50 or whatever. Like I have that Alpenflash jacket, it cost me like $40 or $50. Is it, cool? Yeah, sure. Is it useful? Like not really for us here. But I don't regret having it because it's not that expensive. But then if you transition that to an airsoft rifle or replica that is going to be multiple hundreds of dollars, well, that the case becomes a lot less interesting. Like I'm sure there's people out there who would be like, oh, I'd love to have one of the 1894 Chassepot French rifles that Ian McCullum on Forgotten Weapons is always talking about. Like, yeah, there's like 2 airsofters who would love to have that, and 10 people who say it would be interesting but never would buy it, right? Like, would you pay? Like, well, exactly what Bench is saying. Would you pay €600 or US dollars to have that particular thing? Like, probably not, right? Yes, it's cool in theory, but in practice, like people aren't going to spend the money. So ultimately, I think that's where when you look at Airsoft Innovations and the Flack, that's ultimately where you end up. And I know like there are some, only the Impressionist guys telling you're probably right about that. Some of the local guys, or at least one of the local guys, was sent a Flack to review as part of an agreement or something like that. I'm not sure of the details. And they brought it to the field maybe one time. And I mean, it was cool, but it was like he was holding a big rectangle. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. All right. So I've got basically everything ready to go here. I've got my helmet. Just going to move this out to the sides here. I've got my Fleck turn ready to go. We're going to wear the Fleck turn today. Oh, I need this battery pack here just in case. Yeah, so last thing I can show you. This is my setup for my HPA. So I have my HPA tank here. Today I'm actually picking up a what is it? A carbon fiber tank. I'm getting one today, so that should be interesting. Do I have anything pink? I do not have anything pink, actually. Actually, am I just trying to think? No, I don't think I do have anything pink. I've got like blaze orange, and I've got like yellows, but I'm not thinking anything pinks. Yeah, Matt, you had to retire your Tornado 2 after they started going off immediately. Yeah, that I think has always been the issue that I had as well with the original Tornadoes that were timer, is that sometimes they would go off immediately. Whereas I find with the Impacts, because they have that mechanical trigger, you can be sure that it's not necessarily going to go off unless there's a problem with that trigger. So anyways, just wanted to show you this briefly. So this is my Amazon Repro mini map, or what is it called? Flat pack. I used to have this connected to my chest rig, but I don't anymore because it drags too much in the back. And then inside here, I have spare batteries. I have a spare line, because that's one thing I've seen happen before, is like your HPA line is punctured in some way, and so you don't have a replacement. So I have a spare on me. Oh, there it is. Look at that. I couldn't find that spare mag. Anyways, we'll just dump that in there. I also have in here something I don't think any of you have. I've shown any of you guys, but this is an Inforce Weapon Light Repro. So this is something that I'm going to be using and taking with me to Iron Horse, and I've been keeping it for night games, because at night sometimes you need a flashlight. So this has two functions. So it has the push button here, which is like it's on while you have the button on, or you can switch it so that it's just an on or off, right? So here and then off, right? So on and off. But what I like about this in particular is it has an ability for you to just put something in there, so like it's not going to get triggered accidentally by something bumping up against it when you have it in your pack or whatever. So yeah. And one thing that I do recommend if you have an HPA pack for HPA like this is I have, and I don't know if you can really see it very well, but I have foam here. You can see like squishy foam. This is a spare panel of acoustic foam that I had, but basically the foam keeps the pack, keeps the HPA tank from digging into my back, but it also protects it a little bit from like if there's stuff on the outside banging into it, and it muffles it. So I like having it that way. But yeah, so that's my pack. That's all my kit. Not pictured. I'm not going to go through it, but I will mention all my teching tools: screwdrivers, unjamming rod, multi-tool, all that stuff is in my kit. I think that's a really important thing to have to make sure you can maintain your kit. Does that light have an option for a remote switch? It does not. To be honest, I didn't even buy that one. It came with the GNP Mott's that I have since sold, that I bought a few years back. It just had it on there when I got it. I didn't ask for it. It was just there, and I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, so I think if I were to be in a situation where I was going to be using my light a lot, I certainly would look perhaps at a remote switch. But to be honest, like even at the night games that I've played, I've barely used it, so I really don't have a lot of experience with it. So yeah. So we're just about wrapping up here because I have to hit the road soon to get to the game. But a couple of last things. I want to make sure I have everything packed up before I start talking. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get to the field in about... so it has that momentary on or off. Absolutely. The back, you can switch it from one mode to another. So you can press it and it's just press and hold. And then once you take it off, you can do that just fine. Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, I'm going to head to the field. I don't know what the signal is going to be like at the field, if it will be possible for me to stream from out there or not. If I can't stream, then of course I'm going to do lots of video, and then later on today we can look at that video together. Like I'll import it to the computer and we can share it and look through it, no problem. And then what if I can stream, or if I'm able to maybe even get on voice chat on Discord. Not sure what that looks like, but we will see. We'll play it by ear. So Airsoft is for about 3 hours, so it's going to start in, well, I will get there in like half an hour, 45. It's supposed to start at 10 o'clock my time, probably 10:30 as we were talking about before, Airsoft Standard Time. It's over around 1 o'clock, and so I'll be hanging out there for a little bit, coming home, and then around 3 o'clock my time is when we'll pick it up again. We'll start looking at some of the footage, so share some pictures, look through some old stuff that you guys haven't seen before, some videos that you guys haven't seen before, and then we'll look at doing a bit of gaming together, seeing what's available, what people are interested in doing. Maybe some casual chats on voice chat. Don't really know. We'll play it by ear, have a bit of fun, and then later tonight, that's when we're really going to dive into the podcast with Pat. We've got a whole assortment of things that we're going to be looking at. We're doing on the podcast. So it won't be one sort of specific topic. We've got some stuff that we want to talk about. We have some this or that lined up. We've got some airsoft hot takes, and all that's going to be recorded, so you'll be able to see it after. After that, we're going to do a Q&A and just a hangout. That's going to be the post show. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. We're gonna be just chilling, vibing, as the kids say. Yeah, and that's what the day looks like. There will also be bingo. I know it's a call your hits bingo. I don't know what's on the bingo cards. I know Frosty's been taking care of that. So if you're able to attend and you don't have a bingo card yet, you check with Frosty. He'll get you sorted. We'll go through all this later on as well. But yeah, that's it for this morning. Oh yeah, and so some of the things I just wanted to share, some of the things I'll be giving away through, and I'm sure like if you're taking part, you're gonna end up with something. But so I think I've mentioned this before. We've got some Storm Rider magnets. So these are gonna be going out in the mail as well. I've shown this on the recording before. It's our glitter Storm Rider stickers. These are awesome. I love these a lot. We've got a limited number of these, but we'll be sharing these for sure. And then I have a very, very small number of these Call Your Hits holographic stickers. I have like fewer than like 5 of these, but I'm looking forward to giving some of these away to you guys for the bingo winners, etc. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out this morning. I really appreciate it. It's super, super cool. I know for some of you, it's midday. Some of you, it's stupid early, which I really appreciate. Thanks a lot for hanging out. And yeah, so this is it for this stream. And I will catch you probably again, like in, like I'm saying, an hour and a half probably. We'll be back from the airsoft field. And yeah, so stay cool, guys. Peace.